As I live my life, I am increasingly surprised by my strength, my determination, by the power of my beliefs. I find reward in the honesty of my endeavors, proud of what I have achieved, and convinced there is much more I can do.
This is Singapore Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Dawn Tan. Tonight's top stories. New COVID-19 community cases fall, but an expert says it's too early to say if things will get better by next month. The COVID-19 variant first detected in India is twice as transmissible as the original variant. The Hajj is deferred for a second year running because of the pandemic. 900 Singapore pilgrims are affected. No diners allowed for now, so neighborhood coffee shops are doing the deep clean. A new way to repair human bones by using frog skin and fish scales.
I'm Steve Lai. Also tonight, Malaysia is considering fining people who miss COVID-19 vaccination appointments. And China tells the United States to stop politicizing COVID-19 after President Joe Biden calls for intelligence reports on the origins of the coronavirus.
I'm Elizabeth Neo with your Asia Business Update. The decline in receipts for Singapore's services industries eases further. Plus, Southeast Asia's largest telco eyes a new strategy to boost profits.
Singapore has reported 15 new locally transmitted COVID-19 cases. 3 of them are unlinked cases, while 1 is in a foreign worker dormitory. The Health Ministry says that all 12 linked cases were already quarantined. There are also 9 imported cases. Of these, 7 are returning Singaporeans or Singapore permanent residents. All the imported cases were placed on stay-home notice or isolated upon arrival. The 24 new cases today take the national tally now to 61,940.
An infectious diseases expert says community cases in Singapore have reached a plateau. But it's too early to tell if things will get better by 13th of June, when the country is set to emerge from the latest COVID-19 restrictions. The number of new community cases fell from 187 in the week before to 165 so far in the past week. Fewer were also unlinked.
We haven't had the explosive outbreaks in closed communities, such as in the prisons or in the schools. But like I said, the not so good part is that, we're seeing new clusters that are popping up. The interesting thing in the last couple of weeks has been the 4 households in the Hougang block and the 2 households in the Pasir Ris block without any obvious connection. So this actually raises the question as to whether stopping people from going out is actually going to turn out to be counterproductive.
Dr. Tambaya adds Singapore is in a better position compared to last year. For one, more than 70% of those over 60 have got their jabs. It means those older are less likely to be in critical condition or die. Most cases are also among young people, who are more resilient against the virus.
The other key advance besides the vaccines is the advances in molecular genetics and the genetic fingerprinting. So that has allowed us to link some of the clusters. Like now we know the cleaner who went to Westgate. And so that has allowed us to target the interventions and be a bit more scientific in our approach to control. So we may not need to have a very blunt tool like a lockdown.
Hotel staff who serve people on stay-home notice will need to undergo rostered COVID-19 testing every 7 days. That's according to the Singapore Tourism Board. This is up from the previous 14-day routine. The move comes after investigations revealed that a cleaner who works at Park Avenue, Rochester, may have been the source of infection for the GEM Westgate cluster. Some of the visitors to the 2 malls have similar genome sequencing to the cleaner. STB says that measures have also been stepped up at SHN-dedicated facilities. This includes enhanced infection prevention and control guidelines, such as the type of protective equipment that staff need to wear.
The World Health Organization says data from the UK and India has shown that the B1617 variant of the virus could be up to twice as transmissible as the original strain. The WHO chief scientist was speaking at a webinar hosted by the National University of Singapore's medical school.
More young people have been infected and have become very seriously ill, have to be hospitalized and have died. What we hear of a lot of people in their 30s and 40s who are dying. Again, that could be multifactorial, but it also appears that it tends to progress much faster in terms of progression of once the patient is symptomatic.
Singapore pilgrims will have to defer their Hajj for a second year running in light of the global COVID-19 situation. The Islamic Religious Council of Singapore, or MUIS, says that it will facilitate the reallocation of places for the 900 affected people to next year. But this, again, will depend on the situation then. Heidi Ng and Melissa Goh with more.
57-year-old Shah Rafiq and his wife have been waiting 8 long years to make their pilgrimage to Mecca. But they've had their Hajj deferred twice now, this time barely a month before their flight.
Of course, we're disappointed, but this is something that nobody can predict and nobody can stop. So it is something that we have to accept. It is for the best for everybody. Hopefully next year we'll get to do it. As I said, this is a place of God. And you are invited to go. So if it's not your time, it's just not your time.
MUIS says the move is to protect the pilgrims' health.
Internationally, we are seeing multiple countries that have multiple waves of spike in their COVID numbers. And there is also reports that there are variants of the viruses that is being seen and detected at multiple countries, even in our country, Singapore. And different countries have different so-called speed and rate of vaccinating their citizens.
There is also little certainty around the situation. MUIS says it's unclear if the Hajj will be open to international pilgrims, with no official word yet from Saudi Arabia. Increased safety restrictions and quarantine measures will also add to costs and travel time. The Fatwa Committee, Association of Muslim Travel Agents, and Hajj General Service Agents, or GSA, support MUIS's decision.
Limitation of manpower either from the GSA or the locals over in the kingdom is also an area of concern. Until today, we have yet to find an insurance company that will have a full medical coverage inclusive of COVID-19. And lastly, the whole movement of Hajj is uncertain.
MUIS says it hopes the decision will help ease the anxieties of pilgrims and their families. Hajj deposits paid in 2020 and were carried over will be refunded.
About 220 Team Singapore athletes, coaches and officials have completed their COVID-19 vaccination. Sports Singapore says immediate priority has been given to those representing the country at the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. Inoculation for this group will be completed by the end of this month. The Olympic Games is scheduled to start on the 23rd of July and the Paralympic Games a month later. The Singapore National Olympic Council says it will continue to work closely with international committees to ensure the health and safety of the contingent. Sports Singapore adds that similarly, those involved in the SEA Games will be vaccinated progressively, leading up to the start of the Games in mid-November.
Singapore has withdrawn as host for the AFC Cup group stage matches. The Football Association of Singapore says that an erratic COVID-19 situation has made inbound travel challenging for overseas teams. The AFC, or Asian Football Confederation, has noted the FAS decision and acknowledged the challenges caused by the evolving nature of the pandemic. It adds that further details on the tournament will be announced. Singapore had been chosen as a centralised venue to host Group H and I matches. 12 games were scheduled to be played at the National Stadium